Welcome back, my students. Dr. Ugwe here, and we are studying the properties of cardiac muscle. That is chapter 30 from Chitin, and all its topics we have studied in the previous videos. Now, in this video, we are going to study a small topic, that is intercalated disc. Before starting, an important notes that the handwritten notes of this video are in the description of the lecture. So let's begin. In front of you is the histological diagram of the heart muscle. And in this diagram, you can see this right here is a heart muscle cell, and this right here is another heart muscle cell. So one heart muscle cell is connected to another heart muscle cell at intercalated disc at this zigzag pattern. And at this intercalated disc, we have three junctional complexes, 1, 2, and 3, that join one cell to the another cell. These three junctional complexes are desmosomes, gap junctions, and adherent junctions. Clearly, so what did I taught you so far? It is intercalated disc. It is a junction between adjacent cardiac muscle cells. It is zigzag in appearance and made up of three types of cell junctions. Those are gap junctions, desmosomes, and adherent junctions. As you can see in this diagram, we have the intercalated disc between one cardiac muscle cell and its adjacent cardiac muscle cell. So this is a cardiac muscle cell and this is another cardiac muscle cell, and in between two cardiac muscle cells we have the intercalated disc. Now we will move our discussion towards gap junctions. So what are gap junctions? Let us suppose this is a cardiac muscle cell and this is another cardiac muscle cell. This one cell is connected to another cell at intercalated disc, and in this intercalated disc we have a junctional complex that's known as gap junction. Now what is the function? Now some pointers in the gap junctions. Number first point is that gap junctions connect to one cardiac muscle cell to another cardiac muscle cell electrically. Clearly, so gap junctions provide an electrical connection. Number point second, they provide free passage to ions. So ions from one cell can go to another cell freely through these gap junctions. Similarly, from this cell to this cell. Clearly, in the previous classes, we know what do you mean by electricity, what do you mean by electric current. It means the movement of ions and molecules. Clear? So movements of ions and charges is known as electric current. So these ions, when they move through these gap junctions, clearly, so they form a current, and this electric current moves through these gap junctions. Clear? So these are the 2 points in gap junctions. Number third point is these gap junctions, they are made up of connexin proteins. Clearly, 6 connexin proteins from one cell. So this cell gives 6 connexin proteins, and 6 connexin proteins from another cell. So total 12 connexin proteins form one gap junction. These 6 connexin proteins from one cell, they form a hemichannel. So 2 hemichannels, one from one cell and another from another cell, they form a gap junction. So these are 3 points in gap junctions. Number fourth point is they provide a low impedance pathway. So what do you mean by low impedance pathway? Low impedance pathway means low resistance pathway. So when ions or small molecules move from one cell to the next through these gap junctions, there is almost no resistance in these gap junctions when these ions move. So gap junctions form a low impedance pathway and allows passage of ions and small molecules. This was the information about the gap junctions. Now the theory part of gap junctions: they connect adjacent cells electrically. They provide free passage of ions so that electric activity passes from one cell to the next cell very rapidly. They are formed by 12 connexin proteins and 6 from neighboring cell. Clear? Gap junctions form a low impedance pathway and allows passage of ions and small molecules. So this was about the first junctional complex, that is gap junctions. Now we move on to the junctional complex number second. Let us suppose these are 2 cardiac cells, number first and number second. They are connected by at intercalated discs, and there is another junctional complex. This junctional complex is known as desmosomes. Now what is the now some points about these desmosomes. Number first point, they connect cells mechanically. Clearly, so this cell, cardiac muscle cell number 1, is connected to cardiac muscle cell 2, adjacent cardiac muscle cell, through these desmosomes, but this connection is mechanical connection. Clear? Number second point, so due to this mechanical connection, these cardiac muscle cells can withstand strong contractile stress. Clear? We know what is the function of a heart tissue or heart muscle. The function of the heart tissue is to undergo contraction and relaxation. Clear? Contraction, that's also known as systole and diastole. And during this contraction and relaxation, there's a very strong force that is that acts upon these cardiac muscle cells. So very strong force acts upon these cells, and this cardiac muscle is able to withstand this strong contractile force because of the presence of these desmosomes. Why? Because desmosomes connect one cell to another cell mechanically. There's one pillar. This is another pillar in another cardiac muscle cell. This is one pillar in one cardiac muscle cell. This is connected to this pillar through these desmosomes. This was just an example. Clearly, mechanical connection. Number third point in desmosomes, they are composed of desmosomal cadherens. So these are the 3 points in desmosomes. Clearly, so they provide mechanical connection between the adjacent cardiomyocytes. Now the theory part before the third, junctional complex. Desmosomes connects adjacent myocytes mechanically and allows myocytes to withstand strong contractile stress during systole and diastole, and they are composed of desmosomal cadherens. Now we will move our discussion towards adherent junctions. So there is one cardiomyocyte and another cardiomyocyte. They are connected at intercalated discs, and in this intercalated disc we have adherent junctions. Now, number first point, they are made up of transmembrane cadherens and cytosolic catenins. Number second point, they couple the contractile apparatus of two cells. Let us suppose this one cell, it has its contractile apparatus. This contractile apparatus is composed of actin, myosin, tropin, and tropomyosin. Similarly, another cardiac muscle cell has its own contractile apparatus. So this cell has its contractile apparatus, this cell has its contractile apparatus. These contractile apparatus of two cells are connected through these adherent junctions. As a result, when these contractile apparatus are connected, they couple, they are added together. Clearly, so that is the function of adherent junction. Now the theory part, adherent junctions, they are composed of transmembrane cadherens and cytosolic catenins, and they directly couple. What do you mean by coupling? They add together. Clearly, the contractile apparatus of two cells that we saw here. This is the contractile apparatus of one cell. This is the contractile apparatus of two cells. They are added together through these adherent junctions, with the help of these adherent junctions. So this was the three junctional complexes: gap junctions, desmosomes, and adherent junctions. Clearly, that form the intercalated disc. Now we have the function of intercalated disc. We studied these three functions as well. Electrical function. What is the electrical function? Transmission of the electrical impulse through low impedance pathway. It was the function of gap junctions. Clearly, similarly, mechanical, that's for structural support. We know this is the function of desmosomes. Clearly, similarly, we have the chemical function, that is cell to cell flow of small molecules. We saw that small molecules and ions move from one cell to the next cell through these intercalated disc. Clear? So these are the functions of intercalated disc. Thank you. Your Dr. over here. Share this video, like this video, comment on this video, and subscribe my channel. Thank you very much. Class dismissed.